Well, ladies and gentlemen, it was bound to happen after what's been happening and transpiring over the past couple of days with the Killer Clown sightings and the attacks and all the stalkings. We here, part of the Gaming Weekly, took it upon ourselves to contact the police themselves. Now, after a small chat, they allowed us to ask some thorough questions in their public Instagram page. In the interview, the police explain what they have in store and what plans and preparations they have. That is, if a Killer Clown purge is really expected to happen on October 31st of 2022. Let's go ahead and dive right into the Instagram interview with the police, and they talk about the Killer Clown scare. Well, ladies and gentlemen, now you understand how serious this is, the severity of this entire situation. The fact if you have the police officers involved, you understand that this is more serious than one can think. And I've been saying this for quite some time, how you do not want to underestimate the Killer Clowns. You do not want to take the Killer Clowns lightly because the Killer Clowns are adamant. They are making sure they're going to rise up. They're making sure that they're going to recruit people all over the nation and all over the world to commit to this purge. They're determined. They're hell-bent in making sure it's going to happen. I mean, they've been saying this since 2016, for crying out loud, that they were going to rise up and purge the entire world. And it hasn't happened yet, but who's to say that it might not happen until the 31st of October? This could be the year the Killer Clowns are probably going to commit to this Killer Clown purge. So, I mean, the Killer Clowns out there are really, really stalking people. They're invading people, at least their homes, and they're looking to abduct people. Again, the police now are involved, and that's when you understand that this is serious. Speaking about the police, we're going to go ahead and kick off here the interview with the first statement here made. In this first statement, it said, quote, "Hello, we wanted to reconfirm whether or not the authorities are aware of the recent Killer Clown reports and sightings happening as of late." They responded saying, quote, "Hello there. We are aware of the growing concerns and reports of the so-called Killer Clowns. Our team has been investigating on what is being shared on social media, and if we find any credible threats, we will proceed to the next step and take law enforcement action. We will do the best in our ability to keep our community safe and guarded." We then proceeded here to say, with that said, the Killer Clowns are expected to purge on October 31st, 2022. What's your preparation for this world event? They said if a purge is set to take place on that day, then at that point we would have no other choice but to lock down all cities that this purge is expected to take place. We would then have to temporarily suspend clown masks and costumes to avoid any confusion, and even specific weapons to minimize the threat. Furthermore, we would have advancements placed if it ever would come to that. The next question was, are you guys a bit worried that this may get out of hand? They said, as police officers, we are to remain vigilant and professional at all times. We can't show any signs of fear or worry, otherwise there could be even more chaos among the members of the communities. Whether we are afraid or not, it's always best to be focused at the task at hand, and we can say we are prepared if any type of assault is coming in the distant future. We then proceeded to ask, as for the Killer Clown sightings, do you have a message for anybody that may come in contact with them? We advise everyone to not approach any of the clowns you may see in the streets. These so-called Killer Clowns are armed and dangerous. If you see any of these individuals performing some act of vandalism or terrorism, immediately contact the local authorities. Do what you can to avoid contact with these individuals. You know, my hat's off to the men and women here, part of this, the police department and around the world, making sure that they're doing everything in their own power to keep everyone safe. And that's what it's all about here, keeping everyone safe and keeping everyone secured, keeping all the communities stable. The police out there really have a very important duty and job. And again, my hat's off to every single one of them to make sure that every single one will protect all communities around the world from psychopaths like the Killer Clowns. We're going to go ahead and proceed here and ask the next question, which was, how difficult is it to try and minimize the potential Killer Clown threat? They responded saying, our number one priority is to make sure everyone from every community in our area stays safe. That goes the same for every police department stationed around the country. That being said, trying to minimize the threats coming in from this specific group can be challenging. We need to determine which are credible threats and which are not. We also need to respond as quickly as possible, as these individuals are known to hide as soon as the cops arrive at the scene. That's actually true. I mean, every single time people tend to call the cops, they immediately vanish, and that's the very creepy part. Perhaps maybe they take off their mask and take off their costumes and pretend to be the normal civilian out there, and that's probably one of the reasons why they don't get caught as easily. The next question was, should everyone stay indoors on the night of October 31st, 2022? They said, quote, "We can only advise people, but we can't force them. If there are growing reports of these individuals wanting to seek harm and cause distress to the members of our community, then we can send out a curfew if it ever comes to that. However, if there aren't any growing concerns by then, we can only advise people to not stay out on October 31st. It all comes down to safety and take all the precautions necessary to avoid any incidents." The next question was, hypothetically speaking, if there is expected to be a worldwide purge, what can happen? They said, if these individuals are serious about performing a dangerous worldwide purge, then we are prepared to minimize any threats that are present in our communities. Like we mentioned before, we are ready to lock down cities and have our officers be on standby. We will take all preliminary measures, and if they insist, we will proceed to move on to the next step, and that is to eliminate anybody posing as a threat in our community. Interestingly enough, we then asked the question, by eliminating, do you mean shoot? They said, we are to use our weapons if it gets to that point. As always, we first ask the suspect to get on the ground and follow procedure. If they do not cooperate and oblige to our procedure and continue to pose a threat in our area, then we are to eliminate the threat and shoot if necessary. And that concludes the interview here, but I gotta tell you something. Do you honestly believe that these killer clowns are gonna oblige and listen to the police officers? These killer clowns, as I've been noticing over the past few days now, over the course of the last few weeks really, these killer clowns are not gonna listen to authority. These killer clowns want people, they want the policemen to fight back. That's what they want. These killer clowns are a network, and they feel that they have to follow this ideology, and the ideology is this. They are not going to stop, they're not going to listen until they finally take down this entire world. And the reason why they're trying to take down the world is because of the amount of years of abuse and the amount of torment that they've been facing for decades, according to what I was told from those interviews. I said it before and I'll say it again. I think this is a completely wrong way to handle this entire thing. I think it should have been handled differently. You know, perhaps maybe some sort of a call to arms in a peaceful manner. But these killer clowns are not peaceful. And going back to what the police officers say, I have great faith that they're looking to protect every single community out there. But what scares me here is that I believe these killer clowns are wanting the policemen out there to fight back. That way they have leverage to indeed use their weapons out there. Nonetheless, ladies and gentlemen, this is all I can say here as we continue the weeks here with the killer clown coverage in the news. The Gaming Weekly will continue to monitor the story out there, and I gotta tell you, it's gonna be very, very disturbing as we progress here, because I have a feeling that things are really gonna be turning upside down. I have a feeling that things are gonna get worse from here on out. I mean, the killer clowns around the world, and there have been more sightings as the days progress here. I don't know if you noticed, but the killer clowns out there are becoming more bloodthirsty, they're becoming more hungry, and they're becoming more angry in a sense. And hopefully the killer clowns will indeed be stopped, but their ideology is clear. They're not going to give up until their plan has been fulfilled, and I don't think they're going to be listening to the cops anytime soon. If the cops go out there and say, hey, you know, I need to see your hands up and so forth, they're not going to listen. And it's going to give them an opening for them to finally attack and for them to just rise up and invade homes and hurt people, desperately seeking for this revenge that they've been imposing and they've been wanted to impose for quite some time. That's all we have for the Gaming Weekly here tonight, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for joining us here tonight, and we will continue the Killer Clown coverage, as I said. We will see you next time, and as always, please be safe. Thank you very much.